Over 900 holy scrolls were hidden in caves in the Judean desert, which is next to the Dead Sea, by members of a secret religious group. 5,000 Hebrew letters from the Dead Sea Scrolls were just looked at by AI. Everything was called into question after what it found. The AI saw 50 different scribes, but people only saw 10. Some works were written at the same time that the events they talk about happened. Not hundreds of years later as everyone thought. But what really shocked everyone was when infrared cameras found writing that had been hidden below. It wasn't like the papers were just copied. They were changed, hidden, and full of lies. We now understand why. Let's start with the Enoch, which is based on something truly amazing. This computer system uses Binet neural network technology, a strong form of AI that can read old writing in a way that no person could. This method looks deeper than the surface. It looks at tiny patterns in the ink and breaks down every little line and curve that was written by a person thousands of years ago. It's mostly about two things. One is the way each stroke bends, which looks a lot like drawing the exact twist of a handwriting. The other is the way the letters are shaped. When Enoch looks at these shapes very carefully, it can see features that no paleographer could ever hope to see. Enoch looked at more than 5,000 alphs in the Great Isaiah Scroll, for example. Put an end to an argument that had been going on for decades. It was clear that that scroll was written by two different people. The AI could see small changes between where one scribe left off and where another one started. It might even be able to show how writing styles have changed over time. Before Enoch, never would have thought of this kind of detail. That's not all, though. Enoch can tell within 30 years how old a Dead Sea Scroll is. That's amazing because the normal ways of doing things miss the point by hundreds of years. Researchers have always had to guess the date by looking at the style of writing. Takes a long time. It's not exact. That was changed by Enoch. Radiocarbon dates were used to train the system on 24 scrolls that were already in good shape. That made the base strong. Researchers tried it on 135 more scrolls and found that 79% of the time, Enoch's predictions were right. It was even better than radiocarbon dating because it had a range of error of between 27.9 and 30.7 years. That is a very accurate statement. It sometimes found papers that were a lot older than scientists thought. Take parts of the Book of Daniel. They were from around 230 to 160 BCE, as Enoch showed. That fit exactly with the time period where the author is thought to have lived. Enoch gave more than just dates. It changed the process of writing the Bible. It wasn't easy to teach Enoch. The European Research Council's project called The Hands That Wrote the Bible oversaw the work. The team chose 24 tablets whose dates had been proven by radiocarbon dating. Multispectral imaging was used to scan these scrolls in great detail and make sure they got the real ink designs without any background noise. They picked the Bayesian ridge regression method to learn. That's a different way to teach AI than just giving it a date. The graph shows a full range of odds. This is very important because old tablets are often broken or missing parts. The AI learns how to give a correct age even when it's not sure what the age is. People thought for a long time that the big scroll of Isaiah was written by just one person. That made sense. After all, this old manuscript's writing looked so clean and even from beginning to end. The scroll is very long. This book is about 7.34 meters long, which is about 24 feet, and has 54 sections and 17 sheets of parchment. It dates back to about 125 BCE, and is one of the oldest and most full copies of the Bible ever found. Things changed in 2021, though. The University of Groningen team studied the paper with AI in a way that no one could have done by hand. The AI did more than just skim the words. It looked at more than 5,000 cases of just the Hebrew letter Aleph. It found tiny angles, curves, and pen lines that no one had seen before. It was a shocking outcome. It turned out that two scribes did what looked like the work of one. It turned out that the switch took place in the middle of the scroll. From column 27 to 29, another writer took over. That change went with a 3-line gap in the scroll and a new piece of paper sewn on top of the old one. The AI proved that this wasn't just a guess. When the data was laid out, the first and second parts of the scroll made two clear groups. The second writer worked hard to copy the first, but small mistakes showed who he was. He used a few more different styles in his work. He might have been younger. He might have been tired. He might have had a different hand. In any case, this finding changed what scientists had thought for decades. The most shocking thing about this was that no human paleographer had ever seen the change. Experts in handwriting have studied the scroll for generations, and all of them came to the same conclusion. Could only have come from one writer. They looked for hints. They talked about small details, but they never got anywhere. The eye can't handle seeing thousands of letter forms spread out over meters of parchment. The AI could, though. It studied each shape, stroke, and bit of pressure in the ink. It put shapes together that were similar, found trends, and found things that people missed. This proved that AI could teach us new facts about old books that no one could dispute. It got even better when the AI did something else. One type of change could be normal, like when a writer gets tired or switches tools. The other type could be when a new person takes up the pen. It looked at how the ink was spread, the pen's angle, and the amount of pressure that was used. It was clear that the second scribe's writing was more varied. In that case, he may not have had as much practice. Even though he may have worked in different situations, he kept the style similar to that of the first scribes. This was likely because they had trained together or copied each other on purpose. The experts even put random noise into the data to test the AI. Things stayed the same. There were two writers. Because of what the scroll is, this finding is even more important. The oldest full copy of the book of Isaiah can be found on the Great Isaiah Scroll. It's about 1,000 years older than every other full Hebrew copy. The scroll was found in 1947 by Bedouin herders in Cumin Cave 1. It has only minor damage and has all 66 chapters of the book of Isaiah on it. It helped researchers prove that the Hebrew Bible stayed true over many years. From now on, we know that at least two people worked on it together, and only AI could tell them apart. This shows how well-organized scribes were in Judea in the 2nd century BCE. You can still study the Bible today because they worked together as teams and learned how to complement each other's styles. People thought for a long time that the Dead Sea Scrolls were written by no more than 10 people. This thought came from professionals who looked at handwriting. But that method had some flaws. It left room for mistakes and missed a lot of details. All of that has changed now that AI is around. Researchers used cutting-edge tools to find more than 50 different workers who worked on the scrolls. From what experts thought before, this is a huge change. The AI looked at very small details that a person couldn't see, like how hard the workers pressed down, how their strokes curled, and how the ink moved across the paper. These little hints told a big story. It proved that the scrolls were not the work of a small group of people who were hidden, but rather the work of a big group who worked together. With great care, this group copied and changed holy books much earlier than experts thought possible, up to 200 years before the normal time frame. One of the main people who helped make this finding was Dr. Shira Feigenbaum-Golovin from Tel Aviv University. Her team used strong computer programs to find sneaky changes and different ways of writing. For decades, these elements had been missed. They found things that turned old ideas on their heads. There wasn't a small, closed group that made the tablets. Instead, they came from a busy neighborhood where lots of people worked together. Scribes may have even gone to school together and learned from each other, helping to shape works that are now important to both the Jewish and Christian faiths. It's possible that some of the changes they found in the tablets showed changes in how people thought about or felt about important events happening at the time. When handwriting studies and computer science were put together, they led to a big success. It was Professor Mayadin Papovich and Professor Lambert Schumacher who set the tone at the University of Groningen. They made AI tools that could do more than just read letters. It looked at how the workers moved their hands, how fast they wrote, and how each letter was slightly bent. The Aleph letter showed up more than 5,000 times in the Great Isaiah Scroll. The AI looked at all of them and found small changes that matched the way each scribe moved their muscles. No person could look at that much info or pay attention to those small details. With this technology, we can now see what scribes wrote more than 2,000 years ago. It's like their hands left a secret mark on the page. The most interesting thing about this study is what it says about how the tablets were made. People used to believe that scribes worked alone and quietly copied texts. But the AI showed something else. Two writers worked on the same columns of the Great Isaiah Scroll, and their styles matched, making the text look like it was written by one person. This makes me think of a workshop where scribes worked together, maybe with help from a master. It suggests that the work was done by a coordinated group, not by lone writers working alone. This new information gives us a new view of Judea in the past. It shows that they worked together and shared duty to keep their holy writings safe. The Dead Sea Scrolls are more than just old books in a museum. They show how things change over time. Scribes worked on these scrolls for more than 200 years, making changes and fixes. They wrote with different colors, styles, and even languages. A lot of people have touched some scrolls over the years, like the community rule. It seemed like each generation had the power to change the words, the rules, and the beliefs. This proves that these works were not set in stone. They lived in a culture where arguments and changes were frequent. Some changes happen at the same time as big events, like when new religious groups form or when practices change. In the world of the Second Temple, the tablets make it clear how rules and ideas were always changing. That wasn't the last surprise. Scientists used strong cameras and X-rays to look at the tablets and found secrets hidden beneath the ink that could be seen. A lot of tablets turned out to be fakes. This means that new writings were put on top of old ones by the workers. Researchers looked at a blank piece of paper from Cave 11 in 2018 and found faint Hebrew writing that could only be seen with infrared light. Under the surface were older copies of the Bible, different readings, and sometimes even texts that didn't have anything to do with the Bible, like legal notes or diaries. People did this because parchment was so expensive that they used it more than once. In this way, they kept different parts of history locked up in one piece of material. But not all of the secret words were about religion. Some of the erased words were strange. Scientists used spectral imaging to find an old chart that showed how the sun and moon moved over time in 2020.